When you are consuming any type of protein powder, because that protein has been processed from a whole food source into a powder, it makes that powder more insulinogenic, which means it spikes your blood sugar and your body has to produce more insulin in order to metabolize the powder properly and deal with the sugar overload. The question then becomes, is that detrimental to your health? And is consuming a protein powder still worth it? Let's weigh the pros and cons. Welcome to the Foundational Health Podcast, where we provide education and inspiration to help guide you on your journey to look better, feel better, and most importantly, heal better. Before we jump into the show today, I wanted to remind you to check out foundationalhealth365.com. If you're looking for anything from mattresses to red lights and other biohacking tools, discounts on high-quality supplements, or just more information and articles on important natural health topics, you can find it on our website. In fact, did you know we also do get-to-the-root-cause at-home lab testing, followed by a consultation, and then give you a game plan to get healthy based on those results, no matter where you are with your health and no matter where you are in the world. FoundationalHealth365.com. I promise we've got you covered. Hello and welcome back to the Foundational Health Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kevin Schultz, and today we are going to talk about something that is all the rage right now, and that is protein powders and processed protein foods. The intent of the podcast today is to give you the knowledge you need surrounding protein powders and protein-enriched processed foods like protein pancakes and protein waffles, so you can make an educated decision on what is the right choice for you and your family. Be sure to stick around to the end where I will break down exactly what I recommend for protein to get the best bang for your buck in the short term as well as the long term. One really big factor when we're talking about protein and protein in general, there is some recent research, and this research is very popular in podcasts right now, podcasts in the natural health world, that is, and then the social media natural health world, and that is surrounding the amino acid leucine. So here's the research in a nutshell if you're not familiar with it. The recommendations based on this research is that if you are 150 pounds or more, you should really focus on getting 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine per meal. And then if you're 125 pounds or less, the recommendation then becomes 2 to 2.5 grams of leucine per meal. And that's all based on the way that protein synthesizes in our body and muscle utilization especially. So not just protein utilization in general, but protein utilization for muscles. That's the reason they did that research. While I do believe this is important and you absolutely do need leucine, it's one of the essential amino acids, one of the 9 essential amino acids. Here's the problem, as it is with most research. This one is like this study in general, or the studies on leucine are only looking at one aspect of protein and really ignoring other important factors that we're going to dive into a bit later. So here's what you need to know for now. Most proteins are 8 to 10% leucine. So for round numbers' sake, if you're consuming 30 grams of protein in a meal and there's about a 10% leucine content, you're going to get around 3 grams of leucine in that meal. So if you remember back to what I had just said, if you're getting 3 grams of leucine in a meal, that's really exactly what you're looking for according to these studies. And then with beef and eggs, they're around 8% approximately leucine. So a 30-gram meal is going to give you more like 2.5 grams. So really anything in that range is going to fit into your needs of getting enough leucine per meal according to these studies. So just for reference sake, because a lot of times I get these questions from people, well, I don't even know what 30 grams looks like. So 30 grams of beef is approximately 4 ounces, so a quarter pounder if we're talking fast food world, although that's not what I recommend. But 30 grams of beef, approximately 4 ounces. 30 grams of eggs is about 30 grams, I should say, of egg protein, rather, is about 4 or 5 eggs, depending on the size of that egg. So what my big recommendation here is do not get hung up on exact numbers. It doesn't have to be 30 grams exactly of protein. You don't have to know, is this a 6-gram protein egg or an 8-gram protein egg? There is a range. There is no exact science to this, no matter what anybody tells you. So do not get hung up on the numbers. In my very strong opinion, those are the things that make it hard to stick with healthy changes and not fun. And then, like the way I look at it, eating nutrition, health in general is supposed to be easy or easier, and it's supposed to be fun. And when you're counting numbers to that extent, it's just not fun. Whey protein is approximately 11% leucine, which is why it's referred to as a great muscle building protein in the fitness exercise world. And then plant-based proteins are also approximately 8% leucine, just like beef and eggs. The most common plant proteins: hemp, pea, rice, and soy. So soy is one. I finish with that because that is one that I just don't recommend whatsoever. So it is recommended by almost no one for males, and that is because soy is a phytoestrogen. And so because of that, males are not recommended to consume it at all, but I don't recommend it for either males or females. I just don't think it's a good protein source whatsoever, and it's something that you should absolutely avoid. So none of the plant proteins that I mentioned, whether it's those 4 most common ones or any others, none of those by themselves are complete proteins. And that's very important to understand. So that means they don't have the 9 essential amino acids in them. And because of this, you'll often see, for instance, a rice protein that's mixed with a hemp protein, or a rice protein that's mixed with a pea protein, or sometimes all of those are mixed together. And that's to make sure that it's a complete protein. And so if you mix all of those together, then all of a sudden it does have all 9 essential amino acids. So bare minimum, that's what you're going to want to look for. You're going to want to look for a plant protein that is a complete protein, because if it's just a soy protein, which again, I don't recommend anyway, but if it's just a soy protein, that is absolutely not going to have everything that it needs. And if it's just a rice protein, again, it might say 30 grams of protein per scoop, but that's not a complete protein. So it's very misleading. So you want to make sure it's a complete protein. And then sometimes you can have a rice protein, but they will add amino acids like leucine and others to make it a complete protein. So bare minimum, if you're consuming plant proteins, plant powdered proteins, that's what you want to look for. And then I always think that it should be organic as well. So organic, you're going to avoid pesticides like glyphosates, pretty big deal. And then you're also going to avoid GMOs, those genetically modified organisms. Here is the problem, however, with protein powders. Whether we're talking about whey, whether we're talking about a beef protein, whether we're talking about a plant protein, the problem with all protein powders that almost nobody talks about, I find, is they are all insulinogenic, which means they spike blood sugar, which then forces your body to produce more insulin, which then also creates inflammation, and inflammation, especially in your gut. And therefore, when you create inflammation in your gut, it crushes the protein absorption and utilization rate. So they can measure the amount going in, but they aren't, in many of these studies, measuring the amount that your body actually utilizes when you put it in. Many people that consume protein powders, I hear this on a regular basis, so this is a very, very common thing. Many people that consume them get gas and bloating in the short term because it is insulinogenic and inflammatory. And then if you're consuming these protein powders daily or multiple times a day, like many, many people do, in fact, with so many people, it is their primary protein source. They're just consuming protein powders day after day, meal after meal, these meal replacement shakes. And those are the people that it has the very strong potential to create some significant gut disruption issues. So just to be clear, this is not just true of whey protein. So everything that I just said about gut disruption and inflammation, that's not just true of whey protein. It's also true of any powdered protein, even the new powdered beef proteins that I mentioned. So if you consume, for example, a steak versus beef protein powder, for the beef protein powder, that's going to produce an insulin spike, as I mentioned, and then that also leads then to inflammation in your gut. But if you consume a steak, guess what? That doesn't happen. So always better with whole food. Collagen and bone broth protein powders. Let's talk about those a little bit. So those are also really, really popular ones. So first of all, it's really important to know that they do not, whether it's collagen or bone broth, they do not have the essential amino acid leucine in there, which means they are not a complete protein. So they will not build muscle. So your body still uses them. You can use them for other things without a doubt, but it isn't going to help you with muscle building at all, which is critically important. Not just so many times when we talk about muscle building, people think, bodybuilding. We're talking about longevity here. We're talking about building muscle as you age, building muscle when you're younger, keeping that as you age, because muscle, by most natural health experts, is considered the organ of longevity because of all of the important things that it does in our body. The collagen and the bone broth proteins don't have leucine, therefore they will not help you build muscle. So you want to make sure that you're not counting that towards your protein intake for the day. They do have other benefits such as gut health. They're good for bone, skin, hair. The list goes on and on. However, these are still powdered proteins and they have the same insulinogenic and inflammatory effect. So in the ideal world, you're consuming collagen and bone broth in whole food sources as well, like drinking actual bone broth, which you can buy in stores, good organic versions, and then eating the fatty and tough parts of steaks and roasts like our ancestors did. So that's something that my family does on a regular basis. We throw steaks and roasts, especially roasts, which we love, in the crock pot. And then my wife turns all of the leftover juices into a bone broth, but we also consume that entire steak or roast in the crock pot. And when you do it in a crock pot or a pressure cooker, then it makes it a lot easier to eat as well. And then you get all the benefits of the bone broth. You get all the benefits of the collagen because you're eating those other parts besides just the muscle meat, like from a hamburger. So that's what's going to truly build tremendous health and strength in your body when you're doing those things. If you're consuming bone broth and collagen powders, you should also do it sparingly, in my opinion, and then consume it with an essential amino acid blend at the same time. So that way you're getting the leucine content to make it a complete protein. So make sure that you're incorporating that. If you do bone broth proteins, if you do collagen proteins, whether it's on a regular basis or on an occasional basis, make sure that you're including essential amino acids, whether it is a capsule supplement, a tablet supplement, or a powder to make it that complete protein. And then with amino acids, you always want to make sure that they actually do say what I've mentioned, which is the essential amino acids. A lot of times on the label, you'll say EAA, and that's what that means. You don't want to get branch chains amino acids, which are also an incomplete protein. So essential amino acids, they're great for so many things. So they're great for people that love doing fasted workouts because it doesn't break your fast. They're great for post-workout. They're even great for pre-workout because they give you some really, really good energy. They're great for countless different categories of people. So active people love them, athletes love them for all the reasons that I mentioned, but they're also really, really good for older people who are struggling with getting enough protein on a regular basis and then don't want to continue to lose muscle, which nobody should. So I don't think anybody wants to, but if you're actively trying to keep that muscle, you struggle with getting protein, essential amino acids are a really, really good thing to incorporate. And they're really good for people that are trying to lose weight as well and keep calories down because there is no caloric impact with an essential amino acid supplement or a powder, and they won't break a fast. And these powders are different than what that protein powder is. It isn't going to cause that insulin spike like a protein powder would. When it comes to improving your health, you've heard me say many times, test, don't guess. Well, I'm excited to announce that here at Foundational Health, we can help you do just that. Introducing the Foundational Health Blueprint, a very simple at-home lab test and natural wellness program giving you a complete look at your energy pathways, nutrition, stress and mood, the impact of toxic buildup, gut health, and more. If you're looking for one lab test to give you a clear picture of your overall wellness, this is the one. With this test and personalized guidance from our team, you'll have the education and inspiration you need to look better, feel better, and heal better. Go to foundationalhealth365.com, click on lab testing, and order your Foundational Health Blueprint today. So let's take a little bit deeper dive into the leucine studies that I talked about a little bit earlier. The studies suggest you need 2 to 3 grams of leucine per meal for proper muscle utilization. But here are some of the things the studies and influencers and podcasts that talk about these studies and the importance of these studies. Here's some of the things that these people don't tell you. Number one, it's just not the way that protein works in the body. Your body is very complicated. Your body stores amino acids throughout the day, and it's the accumulation of those amino acids that matter. So as long as you're getting enough leucine throughout the day, that is what is critical. That's what's so important. You don't need to have it all in one meal. And a perfect example of how this accumulation throughout the day works is the combo of rice and beans. So rice and beans, very, very common dish for vegetarians and vegans that are really focusing on protein and they know they're not getting it from animal meats. We know that rice is not a complete protein, and we know that beans are not a complete protein. But if you combine them, they are together a complete protein. But we also know you don't have to combine them in one meal. Again, that's not the way that the body works. You could eat rice, for example, for breakfast. You could eat beans for dinner, and your body will still use all of those amino acids to make a complete protein because your body stores those amino acids. So in my opinion, very misleading studies. Number two, the leucine studies don't look at overall utilization rates and what effect that has on how the body utilizes protein. So for example, we know that whey protein has the highest amount of leucine. So everyone is recommending whey protein and buying whey protein for muscle building, but that is a very short-sighted, myopic view because they aren't looking at the fact that we know, because whey protein is processed powder and your body sees it as sugar, that dramatically affects the utilization rate, which is why the actual utilization rate of whey protein is around 18%, even though it's the highest in leucine content. So I guarantee somebody that is listening to this podcast right now, I've already ticked them off if they're in the exercise and fitness world, because people are so bought into this whey protein powder, in my opinion, lie. And a lot of it comes from the people that manufacture whey protein powders, the people that are selling it, the people that are promoting it and make money off of it. And I could do that as well. I choose not to because I won't consume it in my life. And I'm certainly not going to recommend it for other people. Eggs, which are lower in leucine, have a much higher utilization rate because your body doesn't spike insulin rates to control the blood sugar spike. Okay, so far I've focused on protein powders, but let's talk about the new craze of processed protein foods. The good thing is here, this is really simple. I'm going to simplify it for you. They're just not good. These are inflammatory processed foods with very low protein utilization rates. So not only low for muscles, but also low for the rest of your body as well. Skin, bone, hair, nails, whatever we talk about, low utilization, low quality proteins, and your body needs and craves high quality, very usable protein. So I wish it was as easy as seeing 30 grams of protein on a label and that was it. So you could say, oh, I got my 30 grams of protein because I ate my protein waffle for the day. But that is not the case. I promise you, there are no real shortcuts when it comes to this. It's whole food protein. That is absolutely what is going to feed your muscles, heal your body in the long run. It's not going to be protein powders. It's not going to be protein bars. It's not going to be protein pancakes. Certainly, you can build muscle in the short term. It's all going to come crashing down in the long run if you stick with this for life. So start those good habits now. So the good news is, when it comes to all of that, is you can stop wasting your money on those low quality, gimmicky protein food products that are the craze right now, which really just have product labels that lie to you. So back in January of 2025, I did a deep dive podcast on protein, episode number 13, and I highly recommend listening to that for people that really want to dive into this topic more. So for today's sake, we're just going to review a very few important aspects from that podcast that are incredibly important for today's discussion and understanding today's discussion. Number one, how does your body use protein? So let's do a little biology 101 on this, even though it's probably a little bit more advanced than that. Proteins are completely transformed when they enter your body. And this is why it's so huge that you can't just look at a label, see a number for protein on that label, and think that, oh, yep, 30 grams of protein here is the same as 30 grams of protein here, and that is not the case. Proteins are completely transformed when they enter your body. In fact, no food enters your body in a form that can be directly used by your body. I think that's pretty fascinating. So I'll repeat that. No food enters your body, so eating it, no food that you take in enters your body in a form that can be directly used by your body. Proteins, carbs, fats, even vitamins, every single one of them are broken down and rebuilt into forms that your body can actually utilize. So here's how that works with proteins specifically. Proteins are broken down in your stomach and in the small intestines into amino acids. Those are the building blocks of protein. So there's 20 different amino acids. 11 of them are considered non-essential. Non-essential means that your body can make them. So your body makes those 11 amino acids, which makes them non-essential to consume. The other 9 essential amino acids are ones that you have to take in to consume through food or through supplementation. So proteins are broken down into these amino acids in the stomach and small intestines, and then these amino acids are absorbed through the small intestine walls, where they then pass through the liver and enter the bloodstream. The bloodstream then transports the amino acids to individual cells where they're further transformed. So another transformation takes place. So they're further transformed into the exact type of protein each cell needs. I find this fascinating. The human body is so incredible. It does exactly what you need when you're giving it the right thing. So transforms that protein further in the cell into the exact type of protein that each cell needs, whether it's for muscles, bones, skin, nerves, ligaments, tendons, or any other part of the body. So why is this all important? Why did I go through all of that boring science, some people would call it? Here's the reason. Your body doesn't store protein in its original form. You don't have egg or whey molecules in your muscles. You don't have collagen protein molecules in your skin. Instead, your body customizes and repurposes that protein based on your body's needs at any given time. The whole reason I'm explaining this is because this is the reason it's so critical to consume high quality proteins and provide your body with the right nutrients to support this entire transformation of whole food protein into amino acids, and then a further breakdown of those amino acids into exactly what your cell needs. It's through this process of breaking down the high quality proteins into the right form that your body needs that you're giving your body the proper nutrients to repair and rebuild itself. And I promise you, that doesn't happen through protein pancakes. It doesn't happen through protein waffles or even protein bars that are often glorified Snicker bars loaded with, hidden sugars, low quality protein, and tons of other really, really bad stuff in there. And here is another very important overlooked factor when it comes to how your body utilizes protein. Your body requires a well-rounded diet to fully benefit from the amino acids in proteins. And this is another reason a lot of these studies are so flawed and so myopic, where they're just looking at one single aspect of a protein like leucine. We know that, again, your body requires a well-rounded diet to fully benefit from all of the amino acids. So healthy fats are essential for amino acid absorption. Carbs are also essential, but you want to get your carbs from fruits and vegetables instead of processed carbs like breads and pastas. And a lot of times, actually, this is the selling point of things like a protein pancake. You get the carbs, you get the protein, it's the perfect meal. It's so far from the perfect meal. Vitamins and minerals also play a critical role, especially things like methylated B12 that dramatically affects the way that you absorb and utilize protein. Just a little side note here, you can have protein pancakes and you can have protein waffles done right. So you can find tons of recipes online where the protein, if you're making it yourself, can come from eggs, whole food sources, and you can use the right flours and things to make your own. And not only do they taste better, they're actually good for you as opposed to the boxed frozen one that you're purchasing at the grocery store right now and wasting your money on. Gut health is also essential. And if you're avoiding, and when I say it's also essential, meaning that gut health is also essential for protein absorption. And if you're avoiding inflammatory processed protein foods, protein bars, protein powders, then guess what? You have better gut health. And when you have better gut health, you're going to absorb all of the good quality protein that you're putting in. A healthy digestive system is crucial for this. It really is. That is where all absorption takes place. So if you could be consuming all of these good things, but if you have an inflamed, unhealthy gut, because of that, your body can't absorb and then transform and utilize these proteins and amino acids in the right way. An inflamed or inefficient gut, it's often referred to as, will block nutrient absorption, especially with proteins. And then this is also one of the many reasons my family and I we just don't do those things. We don't consume protein powders. We don't consume protein bars. That doesn't mean we don't consume any bars ever. We just don't seek out like these high protein, supposedly great fitness bars because they're just loaded with crap. So it's why I don't consume them. It's why I don't recommend them. So let's take a close look at the not talked about, but extremely important science of utilization rates of different types of proteins. This is really one of the most important factors. The utilization rate refers to the percentage of the protein that the body can use to build new tissue. So here's a comparison of the protein utilization rates of the most common protein sources out there from highest to lowest. Amino acid supplements, like we already talked about, they have a 99% utilization rate. So crazy high. Nearly all of it is used by the body with almost no excess. And because there's no excess, this is why it's not creating inflammation. It's not why it's not spiking insulin levels. 0 calories, so it also makes it ideal for fasting, as I mentioned. Next on the list is eggs. Eggs are the highest whole food source for utilization rate. And this is not just muscle utilization rate. This is overall body utilization rate. Eggs are the top whole food by far for that. So excellent source at 48%. Meat, poultry, fish, 32%. Whey and other powdered proteins like plant proteins, 16 to 18%. That means 82% of whey protein is not usable for building new proteins because it is converted to sugar. That's what makes it insulinogenic. And then it's stored as fat. That's what happens to things that convert to sugar. It gets stored as fat. and especially if you're not consuming that for post-workout. I get a lot of pushback on this too because people are so bought into, they are sold on whey protein is it. Like that is exactly what you should be consuming. If you're working out, you want to build muscle, you have to have your whey protein shake afterwards. That's what the studies show. Yeah, that is what the studies show from the whey protein companies and the people trying to sell you whey protein. But the reality is that 82% of the whey protein is not usable for building new proteins in your body because it converts to sugar. That is an absolute fact. Branch chain amino acids, they're the worst on this list. They're all the way down at 1%. So now again, what you have to keep in mind here is all of these things add up throughout the day. So it is not just as simple as, well, branch chain amino acids are worthless. Well, if you're consuming branch chain amino acids and they complete a rice protein, then they're not worthless. But if you're choosing between branch chain amino acids and a essential amino acid, you're always going to want to go with the essential amino acid. And the reason is because branch chain amino acids just lack the complete set of all of these essentials to actually make your body build protein when you're just consuming those. So as we weigh the pros and cons of protein powder specifically, you really have to first ask the question of why you're consuming it in the first place. Are you consuming it just to hit daily protein needs? If so, in my opinion, just never a good idea because it's just not a good source. Or are you consuming it more as a post-workout protein to gain muscle? So in my opinion, it should only, if you're choosing to consume it, it should only be consumed post-workout occasionally and only when you don't have access to high quality whole food proteins. So by no means am I going to say that whey protein is the worst thing you can eat and it's horrible and it's going to kill you. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there are so many better choices. But if I was somewhere, and I plan ahead so I don't run into this situation, but if I was somewhere and I just completed a great workout, I had no access to whole food protein, and I did have access to some high quality whey protein, absolutely I would consume that. So not saying you shouldn't ever do it. It should just be on a limited basis, again, when you don't have access to high quality whole food proteins. Also, and this is really important to understand, if you're someone that's dealing with insulin and blood sugar issues in the first place, or you're struggling to lose weight, or you're already a diabetic, so you're really struggling with insulin and blood sugar issues, or someone with inflammatory conditions, inflammatory bowel conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, or any other inflammatory condition, you are the people that especially want to avoid protein powders of any kind for all of the reasons that we talked about. We know they spike insulin. We know they spike insulin because 82% of it converts to sugar, and that is why it not only doesn't have a good absorption rate, why it's not a great protein source, but also why it is just horrible when it comes to inflammatory conditions and people already struggling with those types of things. Nutridyne is my number one choice for the vast majority of my family supplements. I'm a huge fan of nearly everyone taking what I call the foundational 4 supplements: a multivitamin, a spore-based probiotic, omega-3 fish oil, and vitamin D3 with K2. The large majority of people are deficient in many of these nutrients, and they are the building blocks to gut health, immune system strength, brain health, heart health, and every other aspect of your health. Don't fall into the trap of chasing symptoms with supplements, and instead start to rebuild your health with the foundational 4. We partnered with Nutridyne so that you can save 15% on every order, and not just with the foundational 4, but all of your other supplements as well. Go to foundationalhealth365.com, click on Shop Brands, and then Nutridyne, set up your account, and you're all set to automatically get 15% off all orders. Now let's get back to the Foundational Health Podcast. As promised, here are my simple recommended protein sources. If you're going to choose to do whey or beef protein powders, you at least want to source good stuff. So a good whey, really, really good whey, is Naked Whey. So that's the name of the brand. That is a goat protein. So it's one of the best ones out there. It's sourced from regenerative farming goats, and it's organic and like all the good stuff, grass-fed, everything that you would want to look for. The problem is with it that it takes a while to get used to the taste. So when I used to consume whey, which you probably heard me talk about on past podcasts, this is the one that I would do. I choose not to buy it anymore, but that was the one that I was using. And then there is New Zealand grass-fed whey proteins. There's New Zealand grass-fed cattle beef protein powders. That's what you want to look for. When it comes to bone broth and collagen protein powders, these are ones that if you're looking for it to be a complete protein, and again, it does have other benefits, plenty of other benefits, but if you want it to be a complete protein for muscle utilization, this is where you need to add amino acids to make it complete. And then I recommend for bone broth, collagen protein powders using brands like Ancient Nutrition or doing your own research and finding other high quality brands. Essential amino acids. I'm a big fan of Nutridyne. My family uses Nutridyne essential amino acids powders at times. We use Body Health. That's what my wife prefers. She prefers the Body Health tablets that are essential amino acids from that company. And then if you're looking for the higher leucine content and then some other good things that they add to it, Premier Research Labs is the one that I currently use myself. It's a great one. We've got that listed on our website as well. So that's a great source for an amino acid supplement. When it comes to eggs, local or pasture raised, that's what you want. Meaning that a local source that you've vetted out and you've asked the right questions, they're doing the right things, they're feeding organic feed. These chickens are getting sunlight and exercise and eating bugs and worms and doing all of the things that chickens are supposed to do. That is a great source. And in my opinion, your best. If you're going to buy them in a store, you want to make sure it says pasture raised. If you want to dive into more on that, I've got an entire podcast on eggs where you can get all the information you would ever need. And then beef. Same thing that I just talked about with eggs. Local trusted source, in my opinion, is always the best. You want to ask all the right questions. If you're buying store-bought, you want to make sure it's organic and 100% grass-fed. Not just grass-fed, that's misleading in a store, but 100% grass-fed. When it comes to dairy, 5 things I always recommend looking for: 100% grass-fed, organic, A2 casein, plain, full fat. So that's what you want to look for in dairy. My favorite cheese by far, for all of the reasons I just mentioned above, is Parmigiano Reggiano. You can buy blocks or shredded at Costco. When it comes to things like yogurts and kefirs, my family's favorite is a company called Alexandre Farms. So you can buy that sometimes in local grocery stores. Woodman's will carry it at times, but it's an excellent source. You can also order that online. And then raw milk, another great source. 100% grass-fed, A2, all the things that I've already talked about. That's what you want to look for. So if you have that legally in your state, which I think if I remember right, it's like 26 states you can legally buy raw milk. Don't just think raw milk is raw milk and all raw milk is good for you, because sometimes it's coming from conventional farms and it's just not good. It's not grass-fed, GMO feeds, all of those things. You want to make sure it's 100% grass-fed, and then also really important to make sure that it's A2 casein cows, because it's the A1 casein protein that causes a lot of dairy allergies and other problems. And if it's not legal in your state, guess what? You can buy it for your pets, and then you can decide what to do with it from there. And there is a company that I have found online that has fantastic products. We don't have this listed on our website, but we can list it maybe in our show notes. Otherwise, just Google search for Miller's Biofarm. I don't recall exactly where it's at. It's somewhere out on the East Coast. And they do everything right when it comes to dairy, and they do ship nationwide. They ship things like raw milk, of course, for pet consumption only. Vegetarians and vegans. When you're a vegetarian or a vegan, really important to focus on protein, because you're not getting complete proteins if you don't focus on it. And so you want to go for those, what I talked about earlier, rice and bean combos. Eat them together or eat it throughout the day. But really important, you can't eat rice one day and then 2 days later eat beans. That's not the way that it works. It does have to be eaten in the same day or in a short period of time in order for your body to store and use those things together. Also, you can do rice and nuts and seed combos. You can Google what are the best combos of rice and nuts and seeds to equate to a complete protein. It doesn't mean you have to mix them together or eat them in the same meal again. Beans and nuts and seed combos, also excellent. And you can make complete proteins out of that. And always with any whole food that we're talking about, the wider variety, the better, always. By focusing on a whole food balanced diet with an emphasis on gut health, you can ensure your body fully utilizes the protein and the amino acids that it needs to heal and thrive. And that, anytime we're having a protein discussion, is really what the discussion should be all about. It's not just hitting protein numbers. And if we talk about numbers, I recommend, for somebody that's not really active and not actively trying to build muscle, you're shooting for at least 0.75 grams of protein per ideal pound of body weight. But people that are more active and actively trying to build muscle, that's where you want to be more in that 1 or even higher range of 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight. So if you're 400 pounds right now, but you should be 200 pounds, you do not have to consume 400 grams of protein in a day. But if you're focusing on whole food, and again, I think that is where the discussion always should be with protein, not just looking at numbers, not just looking at, I got my 30 grams of protein this meal from a pancake. I got my 30 grams of protein this meal from my whey protein shake. Whole foods, that's where your body is going to heal and thrive, not only in the short term, not only better workouts, but also in the long term, which is really what it's all about. The inspirational and educational takeaways from today. Knowledge without action is powerless. So your actionable takeaways from today's podcast. Number one, if you're choosing to consume protein powder, I probably said this enough, but I'm going to say it again. Start to pay attention to how you feel. That's really key. Pay attention to how you feel, especially with your gut health, because I do have these conversations with a lot of people that they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I didn't even consider that. I am always gassy. I am always bloated. And I'm finding that they're consuming 1 or 2 whey protein shakes a day to get their protein needs in. Number 2, start transitioning from those protein bars and those protein powders and other processed foods into whole food, high quality proteins. And I promise you, your body will thank you in countless ways. Success equals simple habits performed consistently over time. If you focus on your foundation consistently, you will not get caught up in chasing symptoms as often. Doesn't mean never, but you're not going to get caught up in chasing symptoms on a regular basis and chasing those symptoms with prescriptions or chasing symptoms with supplements for that matter, which I hear a lot about. So focus on these 4 things. Eat whole food and take the foundational 4 supplements that we recommend to fill any of those missing gaps. Number 2, drink half your ideal body weight in filtered water daily. Ideal body weight, just like we talked about with protein. So half your ideal body weight in ounces of filtered water every day. Number 3, move as much as you can each and every day, and then build your workouts and walks into your daily routine. Number 4, get 8 hours of sleep, 7 to 9, somewhere in that range per night, and be consistent with your sleep and wake times. That will make a huge difference. And then I'm going to throw in a 5th one for fun. We have 5 pillars, which is just be intentional with every single aspect of your life. Focus on progression over perfection. Don't beat yourself up with a bad day or a bad week or a bad month or a bad year for that matter. Focus on progression, not perfection. And always remember, you are a leader. Lead by example. If you enjoyed today's podcast and found it beneficial, I want you to think about who needs to hear this message. Be a leader for them. Drop them a text and tell them to check out the Foundational Health Podcast with Dr. Kevin Schultz, episode number 45, protein powders, good or bad. Until next time, make health your hobby. Thank you for listening to the Foundational Health Podcast. As always, if you would like to learn more about making health your hobby, visit our website at foundationalhealth365.com and follow me on Facebook at Kevin Schultz DC Foundational Health.